Hey, this AP Reviews here again. Today we're going to be reviewing a couple different products, all from Best World on Amazon. They're going to be quadcopter parts. So what I'm doing here is just show you a few parts, like the motors here right now. These are some 1400 kV motors from Best World, and show the ESC, and then we'll just go through the whole build process, just sped up so you can take a look at it. These motors got your 3 wires there. They're a smaller gauge than what you normally find on the ESCs, but I didn't find them heating up at all. They're plenty long, and then if you're like me and what you like to do is cut down the wires to attach right to the ESCs, they're plenty long for wherever you want to place it. Everything spun well on each of them, didn't seem to have any bearing problems, and was once it was all hooked up, they sounded good. As you saw in the package, it comes with the prop adapter, it comes with a mounting plate, and then screws for that mounting plate, but you won't be using those on these quadcopters. I have these ESCs here. These, I believe, are 30 amp 30 amp ESCs. They've got the larger gauge wire than the motors on both the motor end and the power end, and then your servo cable is actually very long. I don't know if you'd want to cut that down or just zip tie it, depending on your application, but you have plenty for whatever you're using it on. It's well protected in some heat shrink. And again, with the motors, they spun up great. I'm gonna fly this some more later, but it seems to be working fine. Here you can see we're checking the just the parts that come with it, and I was given a quick bend test on the plates. They do have a little give to them. They're not quite as thick as I would like, but once it's all assembled, you can see that small amount of flex, it doesn't translate into the overall structure. I think you'll be breaking arms before you break the plates, and the arms easily replaced. I believe I've bought some before for around $8, and you can probably find them cheaper depending on where you shop. You see, you've just test fitting some things right now. I've got the motor on, and again, the plate that comes with it you don't use. This frame from Best World, this is a 450 size frame, comes with screws to, or I don't know if you want to call them screws or bolts, but to attach through the arms into the motors, so they're the right length. You can just ignore the plate mount ones. And what you want to do when you're starting out with these is line up all your parts, make sure you got the right amount of length for wires. I do want to give a disclaimer here. Don't do everything that I'm doing here. I was just trying to get it all set up. I didn't use any heat shrink in attaching things. Just soldered really quick to get a good connection. Nothing here is going to look neat. And here, there's no instructions with this frame, and that could be helpful. For the most part, you can tell where the arms go. Your posts in the back have some nylon threaded screws that I believe are meant to, take some beating and have that break instead of that long tail of the quadcopter. And then the rest, you'll see where. There's 2 different size screws, and you'll see where they go. Smaller ones in the motors, and then bigger ones in the motors. Smaller ones actually hold the frame together. This frame doesn't have a power distribution board built into it, which is always a nice feature. It's one of the things I'm not too fond of here. So what you can see me doing here is I'm getting some positive and negative wires cut to attach the front ESCs together, and then run it back to attach to where I've connected the back ESCs. And again, should use heat shrink on here to make it neater and less likely to come off, but I didn't have any at the moment, so I was using electrical tape and wasn't very neat with that. So you run it to the back, connect them all, and then I use the XT60 connector, so that's what a lot of the batteries come with, and just wired that right into this, I guess, spider web of cables. In a bit I should be able to see where I've attached, or not attached, placed the XT60 connector in another thing that Best World produces. It's a clamp that holds a bunch of different kinds of connectors, banana plugs for soldering your wires in there, and the XT60 and I guess different XT type connectors. You see right there. There we go. So it's easy to place it right in there, clamp onto all your different sizes, and means you don't have to hold that or have one of the helping hand tools. Once again, should be using heat shrink here, but we'll keep it together with electrical tape. I'll just talk about this frame in general while I'm getting ready to attach the motors. Has a bottom plate that you can see in the center there, with the tail of it down to the bottom right is where the battery is placed, and then the front up there you have a place for little shock absorbers that attach to another plate that's just about the same size, that little rectangle up front, so you can mount a camera right there for flying FPV. And then you got the top, which is basically the same profile, but minus the camera mounting point at the front. And what this does for you is, as opposed to a regular X frame, is it allows the arms to be spread out more, so they won't be in your field of view when you're flying FPV or just any camera up there. Again, you see here I'm just setting things up. I think this might be my final, or more or less, final assembly, so I can make sure that all the connections are the right length, have all the motors mounted up, and what you need to do is you need to find out what your flight controller determines is motor 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what you do is you just hook up a single ESC to motor number 1. In my case, not 1, but top left is supposed to turn counterclockwise. So what I did was hook that one up to the ESC, hooked up to the transmitter, and then, or the receiver, and then on my transmitter turn that on, saw that it was turning counterclockwise. And what you do is you go to the motor next to it, so the top or front right motor, look at the way your ESC is hooked up to your other motor, do the exact same thing, but just switch any 2 wires, and then that one will turn counterclockwise. And you want to duplicate the front right setup with the rear left, and then make the front left match the rear right, and that will get your correct directions. So getting near the end here, just finishing things up. Got a flight controller head lying around, and as you can see, I'm going to be a little jump there. Got the receiver hooked up to the flight controller using some more of Best World's servo cables. These ones are great, maybe 4 or 5 inches long, and it's good for a quadcopter setup, whereas on maybe a plane you want them really long. They're really compact, so you don't have as much that you have to tie up or cut down. I think that's a great feature for a smaller platform like this. got the battery out. Probably won't be flying this size quadcopter with that battery, but just wanted to get it hooked up and test the motors. And pretty soon here, you can see I'm trying to get them going, make sure all the directions are right, got all the connections, and there you go. You can see that all the motors are turning. And so overall, I was very impressed with Best World's products. I would recommend them. Check out a blog post, or in the blog post I will show where I got them on Amazon. Thanks for checking it out. Have a good day.